Hey there, welcome to the Oops in Translation podcast. Last time we talked with Crescini, author, professor, and cross-cultural virtuoso about the Japanese worldview and the identity crisis that she faced as an American becoming Japanese. This time we talked about the realities of living everyday life in Japan, but also in the US. This is the second part of our interview, so please enjoy. Here she is.
That's one of the reasons why I've actually never lived in Japan. I've studied Japanese for over 20 years.
Really?
I've been a professional interpreter, translator. Like it's my main hobby that I've always had ever since I think my sophomore year of high school is when I started learning.
Why have you never lived here? That's very fascinating.
That's a really good question. So one of the reasons, I was just thinking about this the other day, but my first job out of college was with a Japanese company, but in the US. And I had such a rough time there. For one reason, for one thing, I had to move to another state. Didn't know anyone there. And it was just really hard because it was my first job. And I had chosen to live in a place that was far away from my job. So it was like a really rough commute, everything. Yeah. And then it was tough working for a Japanese company. And also I had never been an interpreter before. I think that at the time, I think they hired me because one thing that I've always been good at, or at least I've been told, is that my pronunciation is good. So I think when they interviewed me, they thought, oh, do you speak well? But it was like when I got there, I was like, huh? What'd you say? I don't know what that means. And they were just like, oh no, what did we do? And I was like, sorry, I don't know. But it was rough for more than one reason. But it was such a tough experience that I was kind of burned out. And I was like, I don't know if I want to go live in Japan. I don't know if I can handle working in Japan. Because it's very different, of course, going to visit versus working there, and or even like if you can go, like, say you have a partner that is working and you get to stay at home, it might be a little easier. But actually being a part of that work culture, and I'm a neurodivergent person, so it's like I get burned out easily anyway. Yeah. So that I was just like, I don't know if I can hack it, even though I love Japanese culture, so many aspects of it, especially the language. I just didn't know if I could do it. And so I didn't even study Japanese. I stopped studying Japanese for about a year because I was kind of pissed off. I was like, I didn't like the I was kind of protesting because I had some great coworkers, but I also had some that didn't treat me very well, and so I was kind of resentful of that. So that was one part, and then another part was just different things. Like I've been in a relationship, so I couldn't go over there. I had like all these narrow misses where I almost moved there, and then something happened, and I didn't go. And since having kids, I was thinking about my own son when you were talking about your daughter, because my son, I think, kind of sounds like maybe your daughter, kind of like Shinkei Shitsu, and I'm also like that too. And he's also, to add to that, also he's a quarter Thai ethnically, so he actually looks half, I think, if you were to see a picture of him. He does look very Asian despite being only a quarter Asian. But I didn't know how he would fare over there as a foreigner, and then growing up not speaking Japanese. So that was, as a mom, I was like, I know I would love it, but it would just kill me. I couldn't.
It's hard. I mean, it's like, when your kids are struggling and they're watching the Disney Channel and they're longing for the American high school life, or and they can't go to prom, and they have those dreams and they feel like they're missing out because they're born and raised here. It's hard to watch it, and as they get older, you hope that they see that they have experienced things that American kids will never experience. But it's hard. And, my middle daughter now is a senior in high school, and she's preparing to go to college, and she wants to study in English. and she's preparing, but she's like, she's aware that her English skills are not probably good enough to write academic type papers. So she's taken a gap year to take some English, some college prep classes, and take TOEFL and TOEIC and Aiken and all of those English tests in Japan. So there's definitely struggles, I think, of raising kids here. And I think, I think that there's a myth that raising bilingual kids is like some kind of magic potion to success in life. And I think that really like kind of doesn't really take into effect the hard things that they go through, being especially third culture kids who are born and raised in cultures that are not either of their parents' home cultures. It's just a whole different bag of problems. I mean, there's just some kids thrive in it and other kids don't. And I wanted my kids to be immersed in Japanese society, and that's why we did not send them to international school. We sent them to regular schools their whole life. I'd like to think it was a good decision, but I can't really say confidently that it was. Maybe we should have homeschooled them. Maybe we should have sent them to international school. But you can't. There's no really any purpose of looking back with regret, because you can't change anything. You just have to move forward. But it's definitely, not all like a bed of roses having bilingual kids. I mean, they love being able to speak Japanese. They love Japanese culture. And I think that's the point. I mean, even for my oldest daughter, who really struggled here, she loves Japan. She doesn't hate it. She feels Japanese. She loves Japanese food. She loves Japanese fashion. She loves Japanese music. She just never felt like she would be accepted here. And I think that was the struggle that she had. And even living in the States now, she wants to eat Japanese food, and she looks at Japanese YouTubers and Instagrammers and stuff like that. So yeah, it's tough. I mean, and you might have made a good choice not bringing your kids here. I mean, I'd like to say that Japan, I think it's very unrealistic to think, Japan is portrayed online as some kind of paradise, some kind of like perfect society where the world of manga and anime. And I think that's a very dangerous illusion to have, because people come over here and they find that they get disillusioned because they're like, it's nothing like that. And I think you need to see Japan really objectively in order to be happy here. I think if you think it of as some kind of anime paradise, you're going to be miserable, because I mean, if you can't speak a language, you cannot. It's really hard to be happy if you don't know the language. It's really hard to be happy if you don't know the system and all the unwritten secret rules of behavior in society and customs. And so, it's, you need to look at it balanced. There's no perfect country anywhere,
That's true.
But it is nice to be able to go to the hospital and only pay like $8. I have to. That's something
that much I envy for sure.
Yeah. Do you remember my comment to you on that? I don't know if you saw my comment. I was
I did.
Congratulations. Good for you. But, I mean, that is awesome.
I mean, over here, we're looking at all the Americans crowdfunding to pay their medical bills, and starting
even celebrities.
It's rough out here.
Like, we can't even believe it. Like, I mean, Japanese people, like, when you tell them that, they get this blank look on their face, like, huh? What?
I just
had a conversation. I went to the dentist, and my husband has to go to the dentist pretty soon. And I was talking to one of my Japanese friends. She's never been over here, so I'm like her source for, information on American culture. But I was just telling her how expensive it's going to be for him to get his dental procedure, and she's like, "Oh, you don't have insurance?" I'm like, "Oh no, we have insurance. It's just this doesn't cover
with
it."
the insurance.
It's like, and she's like, "Oh, okay, so how much?" And I'm like, "Well, it depends on what plan you have, which company you have, and like
copay."
It's kind of complicated. Like I was like, it used to be like we used to have this insurance, we paid this much, but now we have to pay this much. And she's like, "Huh, okay, interesting."
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I mean, I am like, I mean, if there's anything that I think Japan has totally done right, it's the health insurance system. I mean, I know they're kind of in the red now because of the aging society and stuff, but I mean, it's like, it's phenomenal. I mean, you have that little blue health insurance card, and it's like a ticket to anything. Like, you can. I mean, there was a couple of days ago, I had I was having kind of really bad headaches, and I was a little bit worried that I might have something wrong with me. So I should go to the doctor. So, so here's how you do it in Japan. You just go like, I'm going to go see a neurosurgeon with no appointment. And see, there's one in my neighborhood, this little clinic, and he has an MRI machine in his little office. So I'm just going to go to the neurosurgeon with no appointment. You're probably okay, but if you want to do an MRI, I can do it. Okay, yeah, probably I'll do it just to be safe because I don't, make sure there's nothing wrong. Okay, let's do one then. Go take out all your earrings. Okay, that took me longer to take out my earrings than to have the MRI. But, take out your earrings. Took them out. About 5 minutes in the waiting room, he shows me the result. Oh, you got the prettiest brain I've ever seen. All of your So it cost I think it was like $35 maybe.
Wow.
And I got the results with no appointment. I went straight, no primary care, nothing. Went straight to the neurosurgeon with no appointment. Was in and out in an hour and a half, $35. And I had a peace of mind that, I don't have a brain tumor or any other thing that I was kind of worried about, and that kind of that to me is like the most like thing I'm thankful about Japan. My daughter has Crohn's disease, which is a disease of the intestines, and her medication is crazy expensive. But we don't pay more than $70 a month. It's capped at $7. So these kinds of things, like I just, Japan has a lot of problems, but they've got the healthcare system like down pat. Like it's seen as part of being a citizen or a resident. I mean, you don't even have to be a citizen. I mean, even the foreign community can, as long as I pay the premiums, can get all the access to the healthcare, and it's fast. It's not free, so it's not completely socialized like it is in Europe. But $35,
cheap.
$40 for an MRI, you can't complain about that.
Wow.
So, yeah. So that, I really like and I think that comes from the communal spirit of Japan, the collectivism. The U.S. is a very individualistic country where, I mean, I don't know how many times I've seen on social media, why should I have to pay for someone else's healthcare? Why should I have to pay for someone else's insurance? Because that's what people do in a society that you help people who don't have exactly the same thing, that you have. That's what people do to help each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's something I'm just very, I mean, honestly, like I see the U.S. as just a sinking ship right now. I don't know how anybody is like surviving in the society there. I mean, to me, like as two people who live in the States, I'd like to ask you this question, honestly. Like, to me, Japan has the U.S. beat on healthcare, food quality, safety, and the cleanliness of just everything in society, right? And to me, the only two things that I always thought that the U.S. had going over Japan was the American dream, right? Anybody could be successful. And this just the crazy like acceptance of diversity and individuality. But those two things I think are kind of being like degraded and
watered down.
Watered down, right?
It's being stripped out.
Like, what do you think? Like, why do you think people still just dream of moving to the U.S.? Like, what is it? What is the appeal that still people are still holding about the U.S. that still makes people want to move there from their own countries?
If you ask me, I was thinking it's like residuals. It's the idea of these things that, in the past, for instance, like my parents, they immigrated from Japan. My dad, for instance, he went to college in Japan and then wanted to come to the U.S. to, start a new life. And, both of them, I think both of them in their own minds felt like maybe Japan is, it keeps me in a box, but if I go to America, I can be a little bit more open, more possibilities and explore life in different ways. And, in their own ways, they're still very Japanese. And so it's not necessarily like they're just this extremely free and so different than other Japanese people. But I think there's probably an element to that's still true. The romanticization of the feeling of like, let me go to this place where at least historically you can make possibilities happen. I don't know. I'm thinking about places like LA, Hollywood, where you're like, okay, I can take my dreams and that's all I need. I can go there and then shoot my shot, you know?
Well, you have to budget going to the dentist.
Exactly. But I mean, even then, I mean, just, you know, even the idea, you know, I used to live in LA for a few years, 3 years, and I met people there, you know, they moved from all over the country, or even all over from the world. And just with that same mentality, like, I'm just going to go there and figure it out, you know? And then they start, you know, you go there and you realize, well, this is a lot harder than I even envisioned, right? Like I couldn't have come up with scenarios that would have been as hard as the reality. And that part, I think, is actually still true.
It's still true.
It's still true. But if you ask me, you know, the kind of challenges that, like, you know, people in my parents' generation, they're in their 70s, that they actually face, the gap between what how challenging they thought it might be and actually how challenging it is was a certain amount. You do it now, I think that gap is actually a lot wider.
Yeah.
But that reality still exists, that it's a lot harder than you might imagine. But, you know, for various reasons.
Do you think the American dream is still alive?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to say yes. It depends. I guess it depends on how you define what that even means today.
Yeah, true.
You know,
true. Yeah.
For instance, like I bought my first house a year and a half ago now, right? And my parents, when they came to this country, my dad had his parents had a construction company going in Japan, so his father helped him a little bit financially when he came to the U.S. first. You know, when he first came here, and it was, you know, he was still struggling. He went back to school, got a computer science degree over, I think he said 7 years, and he was, you know, he tells me the story all the time, like, you know, I made it work, and, you know, working, you know, 2 part-time jobs and going to school part-time, and I was just, you know, dedicated to get this degree and wanted to make it, blah blah blah, and, you know, all good stuff. And but some of those realities were just harder. I'm like, I mean, I went to college here, you know, I speak English, and it was like, you know, I did everything right, and it was still that hard to get to this point,
right?
You know, and
And how old are you now?
I'm 40 now.
So you couldn't buy a house until you're 30,
yeah.
30.
Yeah, it wasn't until very recent.
And that was,
what's that?
Is that normal to be able?
I mean, I think it's probably, yeah. I would say my experience is pretty average.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had this kind of hit a certain set of, like, fortunate circumstances. I work at a place that shipped me off to California for 2 years to work, and, you know, in Japanese business custom, when they dispatch you to somewhere else, they cover, you know, a lot of your costs, including housing. And so when I was on assignment out in California to oversee a project and a partnership, for like 2 years, they covered, you know, I wasn't paying housing costs, and I was like, great, I can save this money. And then when I got reassigned, I'm like, all right, I've saved up a little bit so that I can put down for a down payment. If I had never had that period of time, it just would have never been possible. And I still got some help from my parents to towards, like, down payment to make that happen. And so I'm like, how is everyone else doing this thing? I mean, like, I'm not making a ton of money, but I'm also not at the bottom rung here, you know. So
how about you, Brooke? What was your experience?
I think as far as, like, with home buying, or just generally,
just in general, like your experience, like living in the U.S. and.
I feel like my experience has been somewhat atypical because, as I mentioned before, I am a neurodivergent person. I have some health issues that have made it difficult for me to work continuously. Also, because of the fact that I chose to work as an interpreter and translator, but live in Texas, I've worked mostly freelance. So I've never earned a ton of money as a freelancer. It's always been kind of unstable with my work and income and things like that. And I could have moved somewhere else, but my family is in Texas, so I've mostly stayed in Texas my whole life. I've lived a few different places here and there, but I always came back to Texas because this is where my family is. But we bought our first house, my husband and I, almost 4 years ago, but we had rent our whole lives. I'm 43. So, you know,
do you ever like, even at this point in your life, do you ever think you'll live in Japan?
I'd like to. I feel like maybe I will because it's always been my dream, and I think that would be a shame not to, even if it's just for a year or 2 years or something like that. I feel like I need to do it just to, even though I have kids now and it's not the easiest, like it would have been easier when I was younger, but it just didn't work out like that. So, you know, if possible, I would like to. Now that my son is a little older, he's almost 14. So I'm thinking maybe we might try to make that happen because I've always wanted to.
You know, I think if you could just do it once, I think it'd be a great experience for you. I think, you know, I mean, especially because you have such a heart, you love it here so much, you love the culture and the language, you know, just to have it, it's such a different experience living here than just visiting. I think you see a lot of Japan in a different way than, you know, you do when you visit it. I think you see the good and the bad. And I think, you know, I think seeing the good and the bad and still liking it is necessary to have a true love for Japan. You know, I think when I was first, you know, after my eating disorder and the whole itadakimasu TEDx talk and all that stuff, I was kind of one of those idealistic foreigners who thought Japan was the perfect country. And I was on all those TV shows about like foreigners who love Japan. I was on all those shows, and and I think that when COVID hit, it really opened my eyes to a lot of the bad things about Japan, especially when they locked out all foreign residents, foreign visitors. There was about a 5-month period where nobody could get into Japan if you weren't Japanese citizen.
Right.
Even permanent residents, if they left the country, they would not have been allowed back in.
Wow.
My dad passed away, and I couldn't go to his funeral, and it really, like, that was the start of, and then I got a lot of hate on social media after I naturalized. And then I just started saying, you know, this isn't the Japan that I thought it was. You know, I thought Japan was like this paradise type place. But then I realized that even with all of that terrible stuff that happened, then I still loved it here. And so I felt like that my love for Japan was more authentic because I hadn't just seen the good things, but I'd seen the bad things too. And I still wanted to be here. And
that
I think
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think that's something that everybody goes through who lives here long term. A lot of the newbies are just kind of annoying online because they're just like, oh, Japan is just this perfect country. It's better than America. Just like everything is just so beautiful here, and America just sucks, and it's a horrible country and everything. And then you know, you get kind of disillusioned, but then you find yourself back into the middle ground, and I think that's the most stable place to be here as a person with foreign roots. And I think that only comes with just a lot of experience and a lot of time, you know. But
you know, as you're describing it, and it reminds me of like loving a person, like a romance. Like first you come into something and you're in that limerence stage, and you just think everything's perfect, and then you start to get to know someone better and see their faults. But then you're like, okay, they're a human being, just like it's a country. Any country is going to have faults. Yep. But in spite of those faults, you still love them, and it's just your love story with Japan.
Yeah, but then there's other people who decide they gotta divorce Japan and get out. There's a lot of people like that too. I mean, a lot of people, they just can't take it anymore. You know, and that's fine too. I mean, it's not for everybody. You know, it's definitely not for everybody. It's a hard place to fit in. You know, and it's especially now the economy is just terrible. I mean, it's become you know, it's almost become like a, not a third world country, but it's definitely struggling. I have a lot of friends who just struggle paycheck to paycheck here.
Wow.
And even English teachers, that it used to be a very lucrative thing to be an English teacher in Japan, but now there's English teachers near the poverty line. I mean, here that are barely struggling to pay their bills each month. So, you know, it's definitely, you know, and you know, the cost of living is nowhere near what it is in the States.
Yeah.
I mean, I bought a giant house in Japan with a giant amount of land, and it was like $120,000, which you could never find anything like that in the States, right? But still, you have to keep in mind that the salaries aren't rising at all in Japan. Right. You know, I mean, the average, you know, I mean, there's people here who live on, $1,500 a month. Like that's an average salary,
Wow.
and which is impossible in the States because of the cost of living. But here you can get by on it because the rent and everything is cheaper, but salaries are not going up, but prices are. And so it's not at the level that it's of the States, but it's still hard for a lot of people, but, and some people like that just decide it's not worth it. It's not worth living.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the States where my family is. And at least I know people there and I can speak English perfectly,
Yeah.
but it's not for everybody. And I don't think people should think it is. And that if you don't like it, you should leave. I mean, people should live where they feel comfortable. I don't, if you have a valid visa and you want to work somewhere and you want to live there, then you should go. It shouldn't matter what your nationality is or whatever. You should go where you feel like you can be yourself, and for me, it's Japan. It's always been Japan. I don't want to live anywhere else ever. I mean, if I never could go to the US anymore, that would be fine for me if I never got to visit it again. I mean, I don't hate it there. I'm very proud of my roots. I'm very proud that I was born and raised in the U.S., but I have very little connection with it.
Mm-hmm.
I applied actually when I naturalized in April of last year. I applied to renounce my U.S. citizenship because Japan doesn't allow dual nationality.
Yeah.
Right. And you have to. It's very expensive. It's like $2,350, I think, to apply to renounce your citizenship in the U.S.
Oh wow!
Really? Huh.
But and I still haven't gotten approved. I'm still waiting.
You have to be approved to denounce it.
Yeah.
They might not let you go.
No, actually, they might not let me go. It's not guaranteed. Like if they decide,
really,
and they're not going to give you your money back either.
Oh wow!
I mean, most of the time, unless they're like convinced you're trying to be a tax dodger or something like that. They normally, it's just a procedural thing, but since President Trump took office, it's taking a lot longer than it used to. Like it used to only take 3 months or so, but now I've been waiting almost a year.
Oh my gosh!
And the frustrating thing is they take your passport when you apply. So as long as you have U.S. citizenship, you have to enter the U.S. on a U.S. passport, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I technically I can't go to the U.S. right now because I still have citizenship, but I don't have my passport.
Right.
So if I were to have an emergency and they need to go, I'd have to apply to the consulate for temporary, please give me my passport back so I can go to the U.S. So that's a little bit frustrating. But yeah, it's quite expensive. And it used to be about $400, I think, but about 10 years ago, they raised it up to $2,350.
Interesting.
That's a huge jump.
Wow. There should be some program where you can hand it to somebody else. There's a lot of people.
I'm like, why can't I sell it online? Like, on like Amazon or something. So many people would love to have my passport. I mean, I could probably get at least, a couple, 20, 30,000 for it probably.
Yeah, I was thinking just the same. Wow.
Amazon Marketplace or something, like trade it with something, But it was, it was. But I don't have any issues giving up my U.S. citizenship, but it's quite unusual for my family because I'm the only one in my family who naturalized. So my kids and my husband's are all U.S. citizens and permanent residents in Japan.
Oh wow!
Really?
Yeah. So it's very unusual to intentionally take different citizenship than your kids, which is what I've done. But for me, it was a very personal decision that just felt like the right thing to do. And I still can't explain exactly why I decided to do it. Like, there's really not a whole lot of merit to it other than the fact that most American citizens, like, do you know why most people renounce their U.S. citizenship? Do you know the number one reason?
I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't. I can't.
It's to get out of the U.S. tax system. Because U.S. citizens are one of only 2 countries in the world where you're based on your citizenship, not on your residency, your taxes. So U.S. citizens are required to file taxes no matter where they live or where they work. So even if you don't make a cent in the U.S., you still have to file taxes every year.
I see.
And people who are very wealthy get double taxed. They get taxed on their incomes in their working country and in the U.S. And then, for example, if I were to retire in the U.S., the U.S. or to retire in Japan, even though I haven't worked in the U.S. in 20 years, they would probably take 30 to 50% of my retirement money that I got from my company, and I'd have to pay it to the IRS.
Oh,
so,
wow.
I actually took a seminar on how to renounce your U.S. citizenship online, and 95% of the people in the seminar were doing it for tax reasons.
Interesting.
And they were just like, I don't care where I naturalize to, I just want to get out of the U.S. And I was just like, is that like a thing? Like, I didn't even know that was a thing, right? Because my intentions were purely just like, I just love Japan and I want to be Japanese, and I like America, but I just want to be Japanese. But all of these rich people who were like, I got to get out of the U.S. tax system. It's killing me.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think the U.S. and Eritrea in Africa are the only two countries in the world that tax citizenship. So that's the number one reason, and I think that's one of the reasons they've raised the fee and are making it a longer waiting process, because they're trying to try to keep people like maybe from having such a high renunciation.
Trying to discourage it, right? Yeah, sure.
But my intentions have always been, it's never been because I hated the U.S. It's never been because I want to get out of the U.S. tax system. It's always just been because I just love Japan, and I feel it's my home, and it's my identity, and it's where I feel like I belong, and that's always been the only reason I wanted to do it. So. But there's still people who think I'm a traitor or whatever, and I'm just like, whatever. That was a common thing in the Olympics with the skater Eileen.
I was just thinking about that.
That was ridiculous, because she's been skating for China for a really long, or skiing for China for years. And there's a ton of athletes who have dual citizenship who don't compete for the U.S. Right. She's not the only one.
She's not the only one, right?
So I kind of felt sorry for her, because I'm just like, there's so many people who do that, and it's just normal,
Totally.
And, the whole thing of dual citizenship, it's allowed by the U.S. So they can't really complain about it.
That's
true. Not allowed in Japan. It's not allowed in Japan officially, but they don't enforce it. So like, there's 900,000 people in Japan who have dual citizenship.
Wow.
Yeah, it's how Japan likes gray areas. How they kind of like, don't ask me and I won't tell you no kind of thing.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing. Like, well, you technically we're, because it's a society based on seizensetsu. How do you say that in English? Like, people are good. People are good. People are going to do the right thing.
The assumption that people are going
to do the bad things, right? And so it's based on that you're going to do the moral thing without being forced. Right. The whole society is built on that assumption. So they'll be like, well, we don't allow dual citizenship, so we're going to trust you to give up your U.S. citizenship. However, we're never going to check up and actually see that you actually did.
Yes. So, yes. Americans would hear that and think, oh, they just don't have enough money to enforce it.
No, that's not at all. They're trusting you to do the right thing, because they actually believe that you're going to follow the law.
Right.
Right. Up until now, that's kind of worked pretty well in Japan. Yeah. Like, during COVID, they were like, oh, could you please stay home so we don't infect each other and like not go to work and like lose a ton of money for the sake of your fellow Japanese citizens? And they'll be like, okay.
Right.
We're not going to force you to stay home. There's no lockdown. There's no rules or anything. But, yoroshiku onegaishimasu. And they're like, oh, okay. Sure, I'll stay home and lose all my money and be poor if it's for the good of society.
Yeah, wow.
I'm like, that would never fly in the U.S.
No.
Ripping the mask off as soon as they get past the greeter at Walmart, right? In the
totally. Yeah, there's so many issues with, that's fascinating. Actually, it's interesting with the passport thing, because I too had Japanese citizenship since I was born, and then the thought was at 18 I had to decide, do I want to keep Japanese citizenship or the American citizenship? So I guess we went through the process to so that we didn't have complications in the future. But my parents told me the same things, like, nobody really checks this stuff, but you don't want to come into some issue later in the line, like, why do you have two passports? So
they're actually the Japanese government. I read this yesterday. They've actually admitted on record that they have never taken away the citizenship of anyone who has dual citizenship.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that is funny.
they've never penalized anyone for keeping both citizenships.
Oh, wow. Oh, maybe I made a mistake.
So, but, you know, with increasing, you know, I'm sure you've noticed there's been an increasing nationalistic movement in
Yes.
Japan these days. That's actually going to probably be an issue in the near future, I think, because one of the ministers in Japan is a half American, half Japanese lady, and she's actually gone on record saying, "Look, you either need to make it legal or you need to enforce it. You can't just keep this gray area." You know, because she actually got into hot water because they only check it if you're running for political office, and then you know, if you're found to have dual citizenship, they'll force you to give up one in order to, you know, run. But the average person will, you know, they never follow up on you, you know.
Right. Interesting.
So it's you know, it's very Japanese that, you know, there's nothing it's ever like legally enforced. I mean, everything is always just like based. It's a completely yoroshiku onegai shimasu based society. You know, everything.
Everything is.
I was so shocked during COVID. I'm like, there is no way people are going to stay home just for the government saying yoroshiku, and everyone
Asks you,
they did.
right?
They did. And it was just the
Wow.
craziest thing. They canceled their family vacations. They canceled their trips out. They canceled lectures. All my lectures were canceled. Everyone's like, "Oh, sorry, moshiwakenai, moshikata ga nai." And you know, I'm like, crazy. It's just,
Wow.
it's a very high trust society and a very high level of obedience. And so a lot of people, you know, a lot of things that people don't like about Japan, the whole like lack of individuality and the crushing social pressure, it's actually those things that make Japan the country that people like. You know, there's no trash on the streets. There's, you know, because people don't want people to give them a dirty look if they litter. You know, everybody does everything like the way everyone else does because they don't want to stick out. So it's actually the things that people criticize that are what make it Japan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the safety, low crime too.
Right.
Yep.
You know, and that's kind of the hard thing. Like, you know, diversity is an important issue, of course, but, you know, Japan is a very group-based society where everyone, you know, is very similar. So if you bring in too much diversity and too much individualism, you're gonna crush that group, that collectivist spirit that has made Japan special. So it's a quite big, you know, because I give lectures on diversity, and I'm constantly like dealing with this, like, you know, if you let people, you know, emphasize the individual, then what's going to happen to the group that has been defining of Japanese society up until all these years? Is the whole country going to become selfish? We don't want that to happen. So it's a quite difficult balance, I think, to keep.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, what I'm taking away from this is that there are, I think you said this perfectly before, is that no country's perfect.
No.
Every country has, you know, things that are good about it and
but
bad
it's
about
nice to have doctor for $8.
That's hard to beat. That's hard to beat for sure. You know, so I think I don't know, as I reflect on it, I think about like all the things, you know, our collective experience. Like we can really just, I think to the point that you make, to go back to the video, you know, the understanding of like the spirit behind culture, and understanding, you know, the reasoning behind certain things, the history, all those things kind of add to a deeper understanding of like how people are. And so, you know, even for myself, I think about, okay, all the reasons behind, there are great reasons behind the way cultures are built. And, you know, I think if we look at it the way that you're, you know, looking at it from that lens, there are a lot of great things that you can. I mean, you even you know, said yourself that, you know, it's this culture and the country itself like saved your life, you know. And so certainly number of wonderful things that, you know, by traveling, by being in amongst different people, or, you know, whatever the case may be, we certainly draw a lot of value from, you know, connecting our lives and bridging those types of gaps that way. And so
Definitely.
Anyway, I want to thank you so much for being on.
It was a great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like I talked too much. I'm sorry.
No. Yeah,
not at all.
Like getting as much as we could out of you. I mean, it's so much to share, and we certainly, you know, it'd be great to have you back on sometime and pick your brain some more. I did want to give you a chance to like maybe share, where people can find you if you're putting out content or, your work.
Okay. Well, I do Twitter and Instagram. You can look me up. Just put my name in there and you can find it. I can send you the links. You can hook it up to your podcast. But I have written I've written 12 books in English about Japan, and I've written 10 books in Japanese.
Wow.
That have been published. My latest book, I wish I had it. I forgot to bring it, but it's actually a collab with Sega and Kadokawa Publishing with Sonic the Hedgehog. The theme is kind of Sonic travels to Japan and he learns as a tourist. He learns Japanese culture and Japanese cultural norms and phrases. And so it's a book aimed towards tourists and beginners in Japanese, just to help learn just the cultural norms and the culture and easy Japanese phrases. But that was published last month, and I think it's a really good book because it's kind of my thing. Like I want to be a bridge between the foreign community and the Japanese community, because I understand the Japanese community's frustration with over tourism and people and foreign tourists not understanding the culture. But I also understand that Japan is a really hard country to understand and has a lot of the anmoku no ryokai, the hidden things that are not really easy to understand. And so I kind of want to be some kind of like a bridge, I think, between the two cultures, and help Japanese and foreign tourists and foreign residents to understand each other. And so that book was, when I got the offer from Kadokawa, it was a really like a dream come true that I would be able to write a book like that. So, but it's available. Right now it's only available in Japan, but in the near future they're going to make it available on Kindle US. So you can buy the ebook version of it on Kindle in the coming future, and that's going to be probably next month, I think. So
awesome.
and hopefully they'll be able to start selling it at U.S. bookstores and on. If they can get it on Amazon, it would be such a huge thing.
Awesome.
Yeah. So and then I do YouTube, but I haven't added any new videos recently on that. But it's called An Chan no Kotoba Cafe. And I did a series about my process toward naturalization. I did a whole video series about the whole process of naturalizing. But most of my work is in Japanese. I do a little bit of, this is actually probably the longest I've spoken English in quite a while.
I was wondering about that. I'm like, you speak English quite well.
Yeah. But, it's kind of interesting, like that TEDx talk that I did. That TEDx talk has such a strong, the talk itself has such a strong Japanese identity that I tried to do something similar, like talk about that in English, and I couldn't do it. It sounded so weird. Like it didn't sound, it sounded like I was forcing it because it's such a Japanese concept, the whole concept of itadakimasu. And so I felt kind of like, to say like inochi o itadaku, which means in English kind of you're partaking of life. That sounds weird in English because we don't really say I'm partaking of life. That whole phrase in itself is just kind of weird,
Yeah.
So there are certain things I just feel more comfortable. And of course, my English is better than my Japanese, of course, but I feel more myself when I speak Japanese. Like I can be more and I'm way more funny when I speak Japanese than I speak in English.
I don't know. I find you pretty funny in both languages.
Yeah, you should come to my lectures. People are like laughing the whole time because of my I tell way more like goofy jokes in Japanese than I do in English. Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, I mean, I'd love to help anyone who's considering the move to Japan, who's struggling to get used. I mean, my first 6 months, I hated Japan. I was miserable. I felt the worst place ever. So I understand the struggles of learning the language. I understand the struggle of assimilating, and even now it's not it's not easy all the time. There's still things I struggle with, but life is a journey, and there's no perfect country, and it's just all about process, I think. So yeah, and I hope I'm really hoping Brooke's gonna move over here one day.
Yeah, we're gonna make it happen.
Well, it was great talking to you guys, and I look forward to hearing the podcast.
You too, Ian.
Yes. Thank you very, very much for coming on, joining us, sharing all your insights. We'd love to have you back on again sometime soon.
And whatever I can do to help, I'd be willing. So
great.